Oh, how I love Jesus. Oops, sorry. Oh, how I love Jesus. Oh, how I love Jesus. Because he first loved me. You know, sometimes movies can be really good. And like when the writer of the book was really good, then they can be really good. Really, really good. And Lord of the Rings was one of those movies. It was so good. So I just saw Dinesh D'Souza written that book about Trump and how he's saving the world and everything. And I started thinking, I wonder how many people Dinesh D'Souza does he know in India right now who are looking for a karma king, according to their Hindu, Buddhist, whatever. It's the same king. And yet he's saying how that if Trump doesn't get reelected, it's not going to be good. Now, one funny title that I never quite got that I'm starting to get more than ever is the Fellowship of the Ring. Because think about this. Think about the Lord of the Rings. It's all about the ring. If you had the ring, you get the power, and then you can do anything. Well, that could be kind of parallel to a role as king. Because if your leader is a king, and he has a fellowship of the king, which means that everybody's like with him, and they're like talking to him about it. I mean, they could talk to him about it because they're all on the same page. There's no like deceit or anything. It's all, and that power is just like the power of the ring. You know, it's the king, so you got power. But now, if the fellowship of the ring was gotten like it is in the movie, it's not working out because it's like the dark side. They can't get the ring. You know what I mean? It might be a really good parallel there. Because if the king was chosen by the people, and I think he's got fellowship, but they don't really have fellowship because it's kind of like a faux fellowship, like Q. They're telling you all these things that sound like too good to be true, and they're not true. When they said Obama and Bush and everybody had already been executed, and that who we're seeing now is either a clone or something like that, no, I don't think so. I think we're still seeing Bush and Obama real, and that the Q rumor was a dream. But now that could have been the Fellowship of the Ring because a lot of people were really loving it and eating it up and spreading it around. And wow, look at this. Funny that one of those I'm still thinking might be a false prophet, and he seems to be a Christian, or so he alleges and prays. But yeah, he won't come to the fact that Trump might not have been that king that we really needed. In fact, to this day, I think he's holding out hope that Trump's going to turn things over real quick here, come in and take over as king. But now, if you really looked at the Fellowship of the Ring and all these things, then it's really about who is your king? And it's kind of weird to me that Dinesh D'Souza would want Trump as king when he's not doing anything for India and the karma king they're looking for. And I don't think anybody in India who's looking for a karma king is going to be ready to bow down to Trump as that king of kings. But if the ring is that king who's coming, we know that. And when he comes, there will be fellowship with the king, because every knee will bow before the King of Kings to the glory of God the Father. So Dinesh D'Souza might have been off on his king because it's kind of like the ring instead of the king. So I think some of these people drank the ring Kool-Aid and they liked the sound of Trump. And like there's even some UFO rapture catcher guy that insists that there was a prophecy by a prophet. I think his name was Clement, a modern prophet who said that Trump would be king and he would become more Christian. And then this guy said that he knew that after Trump got elected, he made a confession. Like to the king. I don't think he's king though. Something like his Lord and Savior. But every time I've ever heard Trump talk, he doesn't sound like a Christian to me. He sounds like a really good actor that could take on almost any role except for Journeyman. We all pump him. He was the apprentice. Yes, but an apprentice is a learner. And you never are like rewarded for being a great apprentice unless you become a journeyman. When I used to work drywall, that's one thing that I got reminded many times when there was 250 houses to do. And oh man, there's so much work here. This is great. Yeah, but you're an apprentice. It gets you humble real quick. Because all these guys were journeymen. They've been doing this for 10 years and they made me look like a dumb shit, literally. And so I had to eat humble pie and remember they were kind of like a king. And I was just a prince. And no matter how good I was as a prince, until I became a journeyman king, I could not talk about how great my skills were or any of that because they had like 10 years on me easy. And they could take their drywall knife and show me how many years it had left. I was still like, dude, you know, that's pretty wild. Like when they told me one time they had a brand new 6-inch knife, 6-inch knife for a drywaller. If you can use a 6-inch knife, you're really getting somewhere, because it's a great tool, like an all-purpose tool that you can use really good if you know how to use it like a journeyman. So one of my first 6-inch knives, I was like, hey man, this is a good drywall knife. This is like Wallboard brand. It's good stuff. And I'm so glad I have a good 6-inch knife that's really brand new. And then one of the journeymen said, you really are an apprentice, aren't you? And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, journeymen know that a new drywall knife is not that good. And I was like, what do you mean? And he said, because you've been using it for a year, you broke it in. And then all the flexibility of the blade and everything flows perfectly. But when it's brand new, it's still like not broken in. So the metal's still too stiff and it's not flowing in your hand. And the corners are too sharp and they scratch in the wall. But once it's broken in, you get those corners out of it and it flows like never before. And then he said, remember, never leave your knives in a bucket of water to clean. Especially if it's not a new 6-inch knife. Because if it's a old knife, about a year old, it's sharper than a new one. Because every time you use that blade, you take and clean off your knife. Both sides. On that metal tray. It's called a pan. It's not a pan in the kitchen, though. It's not different. But that's the pan that keeps the mud. And so when you wipe it like that, you're sharpening it every single time. And you do that probably 200 times a day. Boom, 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 boom. Because you're always cleaning it to keep cleaning your work. And he said, when you put a used knife in a bucket upside down, and the blade's sticking up and you see it's in the water, you go to put your hand in there. He said he knew a guy that, like, I don't know if he cut his finger off, but he cut it really bad because he stuck it in a knife like that. The knife cut him, and it was like a sharp blade. And I was like, wow. I didn't know I could learn that much about a 6-inch knife from a journeyman who tells me it ain't that good new. So sometimes we have to really think about what is an apprentice and what is a journeyman, because we know that the king is a journeyman because he was already here and he already served a lifetime, well, especially 3 years, saying he's going to be king. And then they were like, okay, you're king now. But he's like, no, they won't accept me as king because maybe they see me as an apprentice or whatever it is. And they did. They said he was just a carpenter. But that wasn't the point. The point was that he was the true king. And the other ones were all apprentices. But they had all the paperwork to say they served the king and that they were journeymen according to the doctrines of the Pharisees. But that's where he showed them, this is supposed to be a house of prayer, and you guys made it to a den of thieves. And that's all it is now. And then he said, then you guys, when you're saying that I'm not from God, you're blaspheming, which means there's nothing left for you. You're done. You're beyond hope. And you're going out and telling people to go get people saved and come into our church. He said, you're making twice the sons of hell as yourselves. Which means it wasn't a very good church. So if you look right now, what's happening? It's kind of like a reset of trying to be king when we've only got an apprentice. And it's amazing how many people were like, Trump really proved himself with the apprentice. Well, as the apprentice, he was not a king and he was not a journeyman. So he would not be qualifying for whatever that prophet thought or whatever. And so when these people are like, Trump was our only hope and now it's over because the Democrats, blah, blah, blah. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a big Democrat guy or thinking that Biden's going to save us. I never did. But I didn't think Trump was either, especially when I saw his beheading agenda for us. And beheading isn't a really fun word when you think about it happening to you. But yet, I noticed how during the Q movement, there was like, well, the beheading might happen for the bad guys, but not for us. Of course, now that he's gone, there's rumors that the Q movement people are going to be the first ones beheaded for the king or whatever. So this is just like shuffleboard with us. And we're all getting moved around and going, oh, I think this is the king. And there's no king. And there's no journeyman who's ready to be king except for our king. So you don't have to worry about what Dinesh D'Souza says. And I thought he was a pretty good guy, but I think just like the Fellowship of the Ring, he's got the wrong king. He's got the ring. And right now, there's still people buying into the ring. This is the Fellowship of the Ring. We're going to have it with this guy who's going to make us like king. And I don't know what the anti-Biden people think is going to happen if they don't like Biden, if they don't have a king, if they think Trump's coming back. I guess some of them do. But do you see what I mean? This is just weak faith. And the problem is that people are trusting in the ring. And they're like, hey, with the ring, we're going to have it with Trump, or we're going to have it with... But no, it's not about the power of the ring and calling him king or any of that, or who it is. But actually, who it is, yes. Because it's got to be that king. Sorry, I ate too much rice last night. That was pretty good stuff. That North Swiss I found. North Swiss vegetable rice medley. A little GMO, but I don't think so because it's Swiss based, so it's not too bad. But anyway. Set your eyes upon Jesus. Look full in his wonderful face, and the things of earth will grow strangely dim. That's what we need. We need that strangely dimness of the things of earth, because there's a lot of people trusted in the things of earth and these kings and these prophets who said he will be king and all these things. But our prophets should be talking about the king who was prophesied from the gate. And if you don't think he's due now, I don't know what you've been drinking. But it must be pretty good. But we're waiting for our king. And we're not stressing about, oh dear, this guy or that guy or... No. Because they're all playing shuffleboard and the LGBTQ and the whatever. Get real. So think about a king. Think about a gold, naked truth society where lies do not work. Just imagine that. Imagine the king comes, he sets up the kingdom, brings 8 million kids with him, and we're all back to Adam and Eve. And then if you lie, that's not truth. We've actually got like truth detectors that work for the government. The king would actually know if anybody in the world lied. And there would be consequences like loss of gold, maybe loss of your nudity, because your nudity is related to the truth. So like maybe, I don't know, but this is something we should think about. How would a society run in which there is no lies? When we're drowning in seas of lies, but now those seas are all going to be gone when the king comes. So we're not going to have an ocean anymore because that's all the lies. So I'm guessing that the when we go out to the beach, it'll be like a big salt, like the Dead Sea is. But it will be the dead ocean that was the seas of lies. So we can see those salt piles and know, well, that's what the king did to the lies. And so maybe, like, if you lie, you'll have to go live at the beach for a while and look at the sea of salt and say, that's what you're trying to be. And then maybe they'll, like, castigate you there. That'll be your, like, punishment until you start getting back in the truth. I don't know, but it's fun to think about because it's amazing how different the world would be if a king came and said, okay, no more lies now. You can't lie. That's it. It's all truth. Now, if you've been working for the king, you're already in the truth, so you're all good, and you're not trying to lie to anybody. You're like, dude, I'm not trying to get all this prince stuff. I'm just trying to be, like, free with the king and as naked as can be because that's how he's coming. He's coming naked, so I want to be ready with him. Then there's no lies in you. But if you're into all the doctrines and everything, oh yeah, I'm going to go with this little... Well, yeah, you're not with the king, and you're all deceptive, so you're probably going to go to that planet. Because you won't fit here. But the people that do fit here, the remnant and everybody that's here, they're going to have to be on the same page with the truth. The truth won't be accepted there. So if anybody says it, it's like going back to the apple. And then I don't know if they're going to have to cover up or they're going to have to get out. They're going to have to probably get out of the main place where everybody is. And they'll have to go and pay dues for deceiving people. Trying to get them away from the truth. And wow, that society would be amazing because I just can't imagine a world without lies. It's like, that's paradise already, you know what I mean? And then to see naked girls everywhere. And that's how God made them, and that's how he wants them to be. And that I could actually see them and say, wow, Lord, thank you. That's amazing. And to see them all smiling at me like they like how I am or like how I look or whatever it might be. And then I could look at them back and say, back at you, wow, you're beautiful too. But to say it in a way that God would be happy for and not just dwelling on, oh, look at down there. No, I can just look everywhere. But if I look at a beautiful woman and like I'm looking to her eyes and her face, as much as the beauty of her body, it shows that I know that the king is watching, and I'm not trying to be like taking advantage of it because it's not going away. So as long as I'm honest about it, and wow, Lord, this is awesome, thank you. I could never imagine seeing all these beautiful women the way you created them, and that one might want to be with me. It's just like a beautiful thing. And so when you think about those things, you think about truth and you think about nakedness and gold that's awarded for us dwelling with the king in righteousness and truth, speaking truth and love to everyone and spreading that fruit is paying in gold. So what's to lose? There's nothing. So whatever the politicians are saying or whatever anybody's saying right now, it just shows our need for the fellowship of the king. Because when the king comes, we're all going to be blessed for how we were together for the king. Not for your little church or your little rapture theory or whatever. No. We were working for the king. And when we're working for the king and we're all spreading that around, then that love starts flowing through all of us. And then when he comes and we all bow down with all of our hearts to this king we've been waiting for, that we're ready for truth, we're ready for nakedness, and we're ready for Eden 2.0, then wow, it's like beauty beyond we can imagine. And you got 1,000 years. So what's to lose here? I'll tell you what. If you're staying awake because you might catch a cold, buddy, wake up! Because the king's almost here. And that's not how he wants you. He doesn't want you living in fear. Because that's what he told the disciples. Fear not, O you of little faith. So if you have faith about the king that's coming, and he's making it quite lovely, then you don't have to worry about any of these things. Just get on page with our buddy, because that's what he is. He's our buddy that's like giving us a hug every time we work for him and his kingdom. Because that's planting seeds that stay here in this kingdom when he comes. So have a great day and think about the fellowship of the king, which we have right now. We're talking to the king. We're telling him, oh, help me get to this day because I'm trying to be for the king. And there's a lot of people for the princes right now, but they aren't free. And so if we have so much freedom with the king that we literally reek, and I'm talking like, I mean, I showered yesterday, so my BO is not that bad. But before that, it had been like, I don't know, 20 days. And I'm telling you, I had a BO that was, it was kind of like a lasting impression. So like if I went somewhere without a shirt and I was just talking to somebody, I didn't need to go like this. If I was close enough, it's like, wow, dude, you're ripe, all right. But that's what I mean is we should be like that for our king, but not with BO, but with the smell of freedom from a king. That just makes people, like my BO would turn them off. It's just the opposite. They're like, ooh, I smell some of that. Because when you're with the princes, it never smells like the sweetness of a king. Unless they're really good actors, which Trump was, I'll give him that. But his act has really gotten old. And I mean, I would love to have debated him. And I wasn't even a presidential candidate or had a script, but I could have just ripped him to shreds just on his acting and being an apprentice. And I would be like, well, I'm trying to be a journeyman, so where are you at? And that would have made the debate quite silly. And not to mention, they did start the debate with him claiming bankruptcy on $1 billion, and then nobody they just kind of forgot about that. But like, if you look at it right now, he's put us all into bankruptcy. And now, I don't know if Biden's trying to do some magic thing, but it doesn't matter because he's trying to do the Fellowship of the Ring. And there's no ring like the king. Because see, when they put him on that cross and they put King of the Jews, that was the ring of the rings. Okay? And by crucifying him on that cross as the King of the Jews, he's the only one that's been given the ring. So the Fellowship of the Ring is only with the king. And if anybody says, oh yeah, I'm the king and blah, 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 and I'm with Jesus, blah, blah, blah. Sorry, it doesn't work for me. Because I know who's got the ring. And I know I want a fellowship with the ring of the king. And that's a lot easier than these actors who are folding quite quick. And if you look at investments, the only thing that's good is gold. Unless cannabis now, but cannabis is backed by gold because it's made by God. So organic cannabis has always been for the king, along with all the organic food. So yeah, if you really want to go in the stock market and do good, then think about what the king would let go and let into his kingdom. And it's going to be organic food companies, organic bud companies, everything that was made like the king had originally designed. But with all our poisons and everything, that's not a lot of food and it's not a lot of stuff. So that would be the investment of the future if you're not into gold. But if you're into gold, you can see the gold's always going to be solid. And the king's got his own gold that he's already saved up for us as we followed the golden rule. And if you've been following it for many years, you got gold in the bank. You don't got to worry about. In fact, I've already started offering to buy a dispensary in La Jolla, but of course they ignore me. You're nuts, dude. You're not going to buy this. Okay, wait till the king comes. Because I keep telling them that dispensary is going away. Because it's all GMO. And it's like they're putting poisons in the wheat to make us stupid. That's just wrong. But it doesn't surprise me because they're putting poisons in the food. They're putting in alcohol. They're putting in everything. Because that's part of these powers that be in their Fellowship of the Ring, that they thought that they should be king and depopulate us slowly through little suffering and strange meds and all these strange things. But if you look at the king, he already had it simple from the gate. Do unto others, you do have them do to you. You're not going to try to kill anybody with poison. You're going to make them pizza or whatever that's organic that you would eat. And then everybody's going to love it. And then the business is going to thrive because it's based on golden rule jive. That brings us together, not kills us off or separates us. So thank you, Lord, that you are the King of Kings and that you are coming and that we can trust you more than anybody who's claiming to have a rank. And help us to do what makes you happy most of all. And get that fellowship infectious for you, the king, and not for these princes who are really good at acting like kings. But they got no sweet fruit in them, and you got it all in you. So give us your fruit, help us to spread that, and infect people with the fellowship of the king. I love y'all, and keep doing what you're doing, because it's working. We're getting somewhere, little by little. Remember, read Revelation 7 and show all your brothers. This is where we are now, and this is where you want to be. It's not about the deity of Christ or sola scriptura or any of that stuff. We're just focused on the king. And if we can do that and bring his kingdom like that, that's where Eden's going to be. Wow, 1,000 years. I can't believe it. Yep, that's it. And that's what we got to start thinking about right now. If you get in that mindset, wow, I can't believe it, then you want to get into the king and spread it around, and not like, this is not like a bad religion. No, this is totally opposite. This is the fellowship of the ring with the king. So, love y'all. Keep what you're doing right with the king. And we're going to be singing him real quick. I love y'all.